Opinion: Why Army officer versus airline staff videos hurt India? The sight of a strapping man charging at airline staff brandishing a Q signpost in hand is scary. But more so if he happens to be a military officer. Immediately images of commandos trained in deadly hand-to-hand combat come to mind. Of course, all military personnel are not commandos, and all airline staff are not exactly empathetic when dealing with stressed-out passengers. The result is what happened late a week ago at Srinagar airport, which inevitably went viral. On the face of it, the issue is of an enraged army officer hitting and badly injuring 4 ground staff of an airline, that too at the very high security Srinagar airport, where security personnel are always on maximum alert, for obvious reasons. The reports emanating from both parties, supporters of the officer and of the staffers, are diametrically opposite, predictably. And unfortunately, given the way such cases play out, what actually happened may never really come out. There are many cases when videos posted on social media have turned out to be doctored or edited to convey a sequence of events that may not be accurate. Even in this case, the public only sees excerpts of the incident at Srinagar airport, and the verbal exchanges between the army officer and the airline staffers are not audible. So there is no way to figure out what triggered the outburst, or indeed who provoked the violence, except from the versions from both sides. The army officer's supporters say he was traveling with no check-in luggage and only 1 carry-on bag according to some accounts, which was just over the allowed limit. He was willing to even leave behind the excess amount, but the airline staffers were rude and unaccommodating. The video shows that he initially did leave 1 rucksack on a chair in the departure area, but subsequently he could also be seen picking it up and pushing his way forward to the gate. The staffer's version is that he had 2 bags, well over the cabin baggage limit of 7 kilograms, but lost his temper when told he would not be allowed to take them on board without paying extra. He refused to accept it, exchanged heated words, and then assaulted 4 staffers with a signpost, damaging one man's spine and another's jaw before being restrained by a CISF personnel. Much of that assault was captured on videotape, so there is no denying it. But is that the whole story? The officer's supporters say the staffers demanded a bribe to let him carry the extra kilos aboard. Others say they heard the 4 staffers commenting that they had cornered an army officer, a category of people often not popular with the local population and would make things difficult for him. Both assertions are hearsay, but not improbable, as passengers have often complained about corrupt ground staff at other airports too. Those angles clearly need to be investigated. The army officers' supporters also claim that the airline staffers are exaggerating the extent of their injuries in order to get more compensation, if that is on the cards at all, and also to make their case stronger if and when the matter goes to any court. The gravity of their injuries will certainly be ascertained properly by a medical panel in the course of an inquiry, but again, magnifying them are also a common occurrence in assault and accident cases and cannot be ruled out. Social media is rife with incidents of airline staffers misbehaving with passengers in India and around the world. Most Indian air travelers have witnessed such incidents themselves. That the airline staffers at Srinagar may have been rude to the army officer is entirely plausible. That is why their employer needs to examine the video and see if all of them responded to the army officer's problem in the correct manner. Just ganging up to protect their own will not be helpful. However, the contents of the video, regardless of any alleged culpability of the airline staffers, show a dismal meltdown by a military officer from whom the public expects a higher degree of behavior. They are meant to be trained to operate in high-pressure situations with equanimity, and that skill should not be restricted to confrontations with foreign enemies. Even if civilians behave abominably, an army officer cannot attack them with whatever's at hand. In pressure cooker situations, tempers can flare up with tragic consequences. Incidents of fragging when Jawans kill their superior officers are known in India as in other parts of the world. But it behoves senior officers to behave with more self-control, especially when dealing with civilians. The officer was said to be disturbed about some personal matter, which is why he was flying out with only cabin baggage, but that does not excuse him lashing out at airline staffers. Some have even speculated without any proof, at least at this stage, that the officer has had mental health issues. If that is indeed the case, The army should have detected the problem and dealt with it appropriately at the outset. In light of this incident, the armed forces should revisit its protocols to examine whether the systems to ascertain the well-being of officers and soldiers are adequate and still able to address the emerging problems of this age, especially social media. Courage, duty, selfless service, loyalty, honor, and integrity are the core values of India's armed forces, and these are underpinned by discipline and respect. Every Fauji has these mantras dinned into their very being, and the nation admires them for it. There are bad eggs, who bring disrepute and dishonor to their uniform, but those are the exceptions, not the majority. Yet every time there is an infringement of that discipline, the public's faith gets a little shaken. Swipe left for next video. Precaution and restraint are most crucial for Kashmir, where there is never a relaxed moment. Peace is fragile at best and much rests on the confidence that the armed forces will do the right thing. Even one officer publicly flying off the handle in a given situation is instantly amplified by anti-India entities to posit that all kinds of excesses by India are very probable in Kashmir. The full impact of the Srinagar airport incident will be felt on the social media battleground. The author is a freelance writer. Views expressed in the above piece are personal and solely those of the author. They do not necessarily reflect News 18's views. Latest blogs.